Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to work on getting this into RREF form. In other words, I want ones on the diagonal, zeros below it, zeros above it. So the way I'm going to start out is I need a 1 in this top left corner, which I already have. So I'm going to work on getting a 0 underneath it. So some version of row 1 plus row 2 is going to go in row 2 spot to give me that. Now if I multiply this by -6 and add, I'm going to zero it out. So the first row is not going to change. The second row is going to become -6 times this plus this, 0. -6 times this plus this is -7. -6 times this plus this is +7. -6 times this plus this is 14. And row 3 does not change. -1, 3, -2, and +1. Well, perfect. So I've got a 1 and I need a 0 all the way underneath it now. So row 1 plus row 3. Some version of row 1 plus row 3 to go in row 3 spot. Now if I just straight up add them, then they are going to knock each other out. So the first and second rows do not change. 0, -7, +7, and 14. Row 1 plus row 3 is going to give me 0. Row 1 plus row 3 is going to give me 4. Row 1 plus row 3 gives me -9. Oh, I apologize, this is a 1. It's going to give me -3. And then row 1 plus row 3 is going to give me -6. Perfect, I have a 1 with zeros underneath it. The next thing I need is I need for this guy to become a 1. So I need to just multiply row 2 by something so that that works. So I can take row 2 and multiply it by -1, 7, which is the same as dividing by -7, and put it in row 2 spot. So I'm going to get 1, 1, -1, -7, 0, -7 times -1, 7 is +1. I'm going to get -1 and -2. And then I have the third row, which did not change, which is 0, 4, -3, -6. Alright, now the last thing I need is I need to use this to knock this out. So some version of row 2 plus row 3 to go in row 3 spot. Now if I multiply this by -4, they're going to zero out. So I'm going to start it up here. So the first and second rows do not change. So I have 1, 1, -1, -7. I have 0, 1, -1, -2. And then -4 times this plus this, still 0. -4 times this plus this, again 0. -4 times this plus this is now +1. -4 times this plus this is 2. So perfect. This is now REF. I have 1s on the diagonals, zeros underneath it. Now what I need to do is I need to reverse the process and work backwards. I need to use this to force zeros above it, this to force zeros above it. So we are 2/3 of the way there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some version of row 3 and add it to row 2 so that this becomes a 0, and I can do that straight. So this matrix is going to become 1, 1, -1, -7, 0, 1, 0, 0, and 0, 0, 1, 2. So almost there. 1's on the diagonal, 0's underneath it, and I'm starting to get zeros. I want to use him to knock out the top row. And this is exactly the same scenario. If I multiply by 1, or I apologize, with row 1 into row 1 spot, it is also going to give me a 0. So I'm going to have 1, 1, 0, 5, -5, 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, 2. And then the last thing is I have to use him to knock out this last 0. Now if I take the negative version of row 2 and add it to row 1, this is going to do that for me. So I'm going to get 1, 0, 0, negative 5, 0, 1, 0, 0, and 0, 0, 1, 2. So there it is, all the way in reduced row echelon form. 1's on the diagonals, 0's below it, 0's above it. And my answer is given to me straight by this last column. It is negative 5, 0,